Welcome to Megabucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put megabucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hirschberger.
Well, hello there, and welcome to today's episode of Megabucks Radio. This is Nina Hirschberger, and today I am honored to have with me Dale Gibbons. Dale and I go back a long way, but there's a lot about his story that I did not know, and I'm excited to have him on today's show. He has coming out with a new book. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But just to give you a quick background, he has built 3 seven-figure businesses. And Dale, you're going to get into the story about how you had an embezzlement, and part of that is what has segued you into becoming a business coach and helping others not go through what it was that you went through. So welcome, Dale, to today's show.
Thanks, Dinah. Excited to be with you.
Yeah. So let's go back in time. So tell me about those 3 businesses, and then, of course, tell us about the embezzlement.
Well, the embezzlement story is an interesting one, but the 3 businesses are all in the technology field and a combination of software development, web development, and staff augmentation. So all 3 of them are in that industry, starting in the 90s, going through the 2000s, and I sold the final business in 2015. And took a couple of years off and helped my parents through their final season of life, and then got back into coaching and consulting full time, and I'm having a great time with it. So your question about the embezzlement, that was one of the 3 businesses that I built. I bought it in 2005. It was a struggling business. It was kind of like buying a fixer-upper rental property or something, and then adding new kitchen cabinets and going in and fixing what was wrong. And I was fortunate enough to hire some good people. We turned that into an $8 million and some change business, and that's the one I sold in 2015. During that time, I reached a point where I was doing about $5 million a year. Things were going great. I hit the Inc. 5000 list a couple times. Everybody at the chamber knew me. So I started reading and believing my own press and headlines, and I didn't watch the store like I should. So I walked into the office one day. It was on a Friday. My bookkeeper walked in my office and said, "Hey, just so you know, you don't have enough money to make payroll, the upcoming payroll in 2 weeks. We made it today, but there's no way we have enough in 2 weeks to make payroll." Well, this was a stunner for me. I mean, you talk about just kind of taking all the oxygen out of the room and then leaving on a 3-day weekend. That's what happened. So needless to say, I was stunned. I was worried. I was, all the things you can imagine. And I almost literally just locked myself in my office that weekend, Nina, and I just started to really go into this financial forensics mode just to figure out what in the world's going on. I need to find everything that, we owe, all the people we owe money to. Where's the money? Where did it go? And I developed a pretty simple process, really, to figure that out. And that's when I discovered what the real problem was. My bookkeeper, I'll call her Mrs. Sticky Fingers. She had embezzled the money through the payroll system, paying herself extra paycheck, and also through the corporate credit card. And it was tens of thousands of dollars. It was enough to really put us in a cash flow crunch. And she was unceremoniously let go on that Tuesday after that 3-day extended weekend. And unfortunately, I had what's called, and I didn't even know this, I had what's called an employee dishonesty rider in my business insurance. And when my insurance broker told me that, and he said, "Listen, if you can prove this, if you can pull all the documents together and show how much it was and things like that, I can get this money for you." Well, I have he's retired now, but I had one of the ugliest insurance brokers you would ever imagine, but I just about kissed the guy on the lips when he told me that, but I did give him a big hug. And I was just so excited. It was such a relief. So we went to work pulling all the documents together. The insurance company did a great job. One of the folks from the insurance company drove from Cincinnati to my office and handed me a check. And literally, Nina, no kidding, not exaggerating even a little bit, I made a deposit in the bank account to cover this payroll 15 minutes before payroll was due, before the bank closed. And so it was a razor-thin episode that almost, put me out of business, because when you don't make payroll, people don't show up to work. So I learned some valuable lessons. And the tool that I put together to find this problem, we just continue to use it to manage the cash flow. And I talked to the buyer of that business occasionally, probably about every 3 months, and he still uses it today. Still uses the same tool.
So let me see if I understand this right. The same person who walked into your office on a Friday afternoon and said, we can make payroll today, but we can't next week, is the same person who actually did the embezzling. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. Yeah,
wow,
I'm a bookkeeper.
You would have thought, boy. Whew. Well, yeah. So from those kind of experiences give you the ability to work with, because you're now a coach. So you sold your business. It took a couple years to be with your parents in their last years. And then you said, you know what? I've got a lot of experience. I've got a lot of knowledge. I've got a lot of that businesses need. I mean, you and I are both entrepreneurs. We know that sometimes the loneliest thing in the world can be an entrepreneur, because you can't talk to the employee. You can't talk oftentimes to your spouse. So you come in with all this knowledge, all this experience as a coach. How did you transition into that coaching world then?
Well, I had actually started a coaching business back in 2007 when you and I were seeing each other quite a bit, at different conferences and things that we used to, back when we used to travel incessantly. And I did that for 3 years, but then I sold it. And I've always enjoyed, I've always had the blessing of people calling me and asking for help and wanting guidance and having questions and things like that. I'm not annoyed by it at all. It really fulfills me to be able to help out. And so I got back into that again in 2017 after, that 2 years of being with my parents and losing several other people, frankly, close to me. It really kind of tumbled my gyros for a while. But it gave me time to really realign things and really understand what I'm most fulfilled doing, and what I really help. What I really enjoy is helping people through all of those problems that, I had to slug through, and a lot of times I just didn't have any. I didn't have anybody. I learned though that it was worth reaching out to others who had already achieved or had already fought through and worked through those problems. Even if you have to pay them. In fact, you should be happy to pay them. I still pay for two different coaches, and it's well worth it. I get a great return on that. I'm not just making that plug because I'm in that business. I really mean that. It's really important to find somebody who can help you. I consider them blind spot monitors. That's one of the ways I look at them.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Now, there's different kind of coaches, obviously. I mean, because of your experience, you're calling yourself a business coach. But I mean, if it's employee issues, you can coach all the way around. Those blind spots, if you will. Give me your definition of what a business coach, or what you do for clients.
This is a good question. A lot of people confuse what a coach is. So I think it's important to know three things. One is what a coach is, but there are coaches, there are consultants, and there are mentors. And here's the difference. Okay. A coach, think of the coach as someone who helps you win the game of business. And so if you think about the coach being that person standing on the sidelines with a clipboard in their hand and a headset on, and they're helping you strategize and design plays and call plays, and you're executing the plays, but they're watching and they're giving you feedback. Remember the blind spot monitor metaphor that I used. They're showing you the things you can't see and how to adjust so you can perform better and win on the field, okay? A consultant is the person who throws the clipboard down, rips off the headset, runs out on the field and starts blocking and tackling with the players. Now in sports, that might, seem ridiculous, but in business, that's possible. It's definitely something that businesses do is hire consultants to, really get in there and engage directly with the people in the business. The risk reward profile is different, for sure. So that's a consultant. And if you think about a mentor, if a coach helps you to win on the field, strategizing, executing, providing, being your blind spot monitor, then a mentor helps you to execute well, strategize well off the field, so you get to keep playing the game. So, for example, when someone asks me, Dale, listen, this is a new ideal client avatar that we feel like we have a good offer for. Can you help me understand, how I might put a good communication strategy, a good marketing strategy, good market dominating sort of noise canceling messaging that attracts them? That's coaching. If someone asks me, Dale, I'm thinking about bringing on a partner, and that partner is my brother and her wife and her husband, that is mentoring, because that's a decision that can take them out of the game entirely. And so that's the difference. Or it could be, I'm thinking about, buying a vacation home. I would tell them, look, I'm not a financial planner or a tax expert, so you need to consult with them. But let's look at the basics here. Let's bar napkin this out and see if this is a good idea. Hopefully that's helpful.
That was very, very helpful. Do you operate in only one of those three areas, or all three of them, or where's your business at?
Well, primarily coaching, because that is, that's where I'm able to, frankly, get the most leverage for me and my time, and also for my clients and their time. But inevitably, because you get close to people, they if you're doing a good job, they trust you. I mean, those are important trust relationships, and they'll almost certainly want sometimes for you to do things for them, which moves you closer to consulting. And then there are times when they will confide in you about other things that they're really challenged with, and it could be just a rebellious teenager, and that's all part of living. It's all part of being an entrepreneur. It's all part of being a business owner.
Do you see any business that doesn't need a coach? Should everyone have one? I think everybody should have a coach and a mentor at the very least. Consultants potentially, but definitely coaches and mentors. We just don't have 360-degree visibility. We're not designed that way. It's just not how we're built. In fact, we're very myopic creatures. There's no argument about the fact that we can only effectively focus on one thing at a time. Multitasking was a real popular thing back in the 80s and 90s, and now in the 2000s, people are realizing, well, that's not a good idea. So it's something that I think everyone should have, unless you want to make all the mistakes yourself. Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. So it sounds like what you do is you take them through a real process. Instead of multitasking, you focus on one thing and then you kind of keep going through a particular process. Is that what you do?
Yeah, sure. There's two ways to improve things, and both can be the right thing depending on the situation. So there's an iterative way to improve something. It's where the compound effect comes into play here. Small 1% improvements every day or every week, over time. There's and not too long a period of time. There's this tremendous new place where you end up. And then, so you can do it the iterative way, one step at a time, which is my preferred way to do it. But then you can also do things transformational. And some people would look at that as sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But there are places and times where, radical transformation is not only a good idea, sometimes it has to be done that way, but that's not the majority of times.
So in that case, it would be like, I'm just going to throw a crazy example. So like somebody is in the ice cream business and they're going to transform into the shipping business or something. I mean, totally do something different. Is that how you would describe a transformational type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe they need to pull together and take good inventory of all the assets they have, both physical and technological and intellectual and things like that, because maybe the world as they knew it is different. Think about COVID and, everybody who was in the, or might still be in the hospitality industry. What if you made your living organizing events and all things related to that, physical, getting people together close to close, elbow to elbow events. Well, you don't just go through an incremental improvement over a period of a year, you go broke. So you've got to think about a pretty radical transformation that has to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's really good. If somebody wants to work with a coach, is there a certification process, or does it, how if somebody wants to decide who do they work with, what's the best way to figure that out?
Well, there's a couple ways to figure that out. First of all, certifications can be helpful for someone who wants to be a coach. It certainly doesn't hurt. However, when you think about, let's say, a medical procedure that you have had in the past, that might not be the best analogy, but I doubt you ask that person, hey, can I see your board certification, your medical board certification? Can you prove? That's not what you ask for. What you ask for is other people who have had an experience with this surgeon and know that they've had good results. When I had a knee surgery once, I didn't ask the doctor where he went to school. I didn't ask any of that. I asked some of my closest family and friends, who do you know? And they pointed me to a group of doctors who happened to do all of the orthopedic surgery for the University of Louisville. And then I had 3 or 4 other people who I knew personally said, yes, that's the doctor you should go to because he worked on me or someone I know. So
referrals.
Results are more important than having a certification by a coaching body or organization.
So let's go through a little bit of what you do with your clients then. So let's say you're just taking on a new coaching client. Tell me a little bit about that process. Yeah, sure. A client, the first thing to really understand, and you're well aware with this too, Nina, you're very good at this, is truly understand where are they now, and what brought them there, and why did they decide to go there? Why did they decide to go into business in the first place? Now, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but it's important to know. It's important context to have. And then where is the business today? Where is it in terms of the kind of clients they serve, what it is they're really good at, their so-called superpower, we like to say these days.
And, what is it that the business owner wants to accomplish ultimately? Where is the new and better place they want to be? And so understanding that is, some of the most important work to do, and then figure out what's been keeping them from achieving that from their perspective right now. So part of this is really understanding what the business owner's limiting beliefs are, because we all have them. All of us. If you're living and you're if you're sucking in air, you have beliefs that are limiting you from your full potential. Even some of the most successful people on the planet have those. They just have fewer of them. And so that's important to understand. And then once we piece this together, because as a coach and as just another human being in a different, body with a different set of life experiences and different domain knowledge and things like that from a different perspective, we can see pretty clearly how this person can achieve what it is they want to achieve. And so then we put together the first handful of steps, usually 3. 1, 2, maybe 3 strategies. You don't necessarily work on them all at the same time, but you pick the best next step for that business owner to take. You help them take it, and they haven't taken it yet, and that's why they haven't made the progress they want to make. They may not know that step was there. They knew there was something they needed to be doing.
Yeah, give me an example of what 3 steps might be.
Well, one of the very first steps, and this is one I love because, if you want to have fun and do a social experiment, one of the most fun things I like to do is just to do what we all do when we're in a social setting, whether you're on Zoom or otherwise these days, but just stick your hand out and ask someone, introduce yourself and ask them that proverbial question. Hey, tell me, Bob, so what do you do? And the interesting thing is that Bob will answer that question exactly as you ask it. Or at least what he thinks you're asking. And the truth is, people don't really care what you do. They don't care that you own Acme Manufacturing, you've been family owned since 2000, and you are a finalist for the Baldridge Award, and that you've been voted the best place to work 2 years. That's interesting, but they're going to be glancing over their shoulder looking for the next more interesting person to chat with. They really don't care about that. What they care about is 4 things. They care about, what can you do for me? What do I have to do? How long is it going to take? And how much is it going to cost? Those are the 4 things they care most about. So if you answer the question in such a way that it hits those 4 things and answers those 4 things, then people will lean into you and they'll want to know more. If they are in fact someone who has a problem that you can solve, and if they're not, they very well might know somebody who does have that challenge and make the referral. Otherwise, it just becomes a conversations of platitudes and niceties.
So what should Bob say? Let's give an example. What should he say to that question? Well, what is it you do?
Sure. Well, Bob might say something like, well, what I do is I help auto manufacturers to design and build the most fuel-efficient systems on the road today, so that you as a consumer get better gas mileage, and then we as a community of human beings treat our planet more kindly and leave a better place for our children to live. That's a better answer than I'm in the widget business and we serve the auto industry.
Well, and I think the next question would be, well, how do you do that? Isn't that where you wanted to go then?
Yeah, that's exactly the answer that you're looking for. How do you do that? Absolutely. And,
a few minutes ago, you said one of the things you like to do is you like to ask them where do they want to go. I've personally found that oftentimes people don't know that. They have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
They might say,
Right.
okay, I'm a $5 million company. I want to grow to 10 million. Well, really, is that really what they want? Or do they want more time freedom? Do they want, more, whatever? Do you find people have a hard time to really defining what it is? In fact, I just had a business owner here just a few minutes ago, and that's what I asked her. What is it you want? She didn't know.
Yeah, that's a problem, and I'll tell you why. Is because the business owner, they succumb to the programming that they received when they were in grade school. Because if you remember, and I'm sure you do as I do, if you remember in grade school, what do teachers ask you? They start asking you, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, we say things like astronaut, race car driver,
policeman,
princess.
whatever.
Yeah, if you're like me, you're like dinosaur. I don't know. I probably had some of the corniest answers to that question, but you're asked that question incessantly when you're in school. And so you automatically think, wow, that's the answer. That's the thing I've got to answer for life to be good. I got to know what it is I want to do. That's a flawed question. It really is, because then you go pursue the thing you want to do. You achieve that. You climb the ladder of success. You get at the top, and all you realize is that there's nothing up there but, empty beer bottles and cigarette butts. You're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then you're discouraged and disappointed. And there's a lot of people in their, certainly in their 40s and 50s, but even in their 30s that are just disenchanted with things. So the right question to ask, in my view, is not what do you want to do? It's not even where do you want to go? It's not what kind of business do you want to have? It's not how much money you want to make. The real question is, how do you want to live? That's the real question. How do you want to live? What do you want a day in the life to be like? From the moment you wake up, what do you want to happen? Do you want to have to drive somewhere, or do you want to get to drive somewhere? Because maybe you like driving. Maybe you got a cool car. Maybe you like to, maybe you got a nice, beautiful scenic drive. Either one is okay, but describe that in this, Panavision colorful way, and feel it actually happening. Feel yourself living through that ideal day, and then design your business around that. Because maybe you don't need a $10 million business, because a $10 million business is almost certainly going to, not always, but depends. That's why it's important to ask the business owner about all these things. But they often have a lot of infrastructure involved, and leases, and costly financial and legal entanglements. Ask me how I know this. If you've experienced an embezzlement situation or been sued by employees, I didn't even know what a predatory employee was until my HR consultant and my attorney told me, so maybe those aren't things you want. So ask yourself how you want to live, and then design your business around that. Maybe a $500,000 business with an 80% margin will do just fine. I know what it's like to have a 7-figure business and struggle to get a 10% margin. And what's crazy is, that's pretty common.
Well, Dale, it's no wonder that you're a top coach, because that's a brilliant question. It's brilliant. So let's go back to, you started out at the very beginning of this show talking about something about how the company that you even sold is using some of your methodology still. I think it's having, a positive cash flow or money in the bank or something. Talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. The challenge that a lot of businesses have, and this is almost one of those dirty, dark secrets, I guess, it's something nobody I know likes to talk about. There are some things in life and business that we're just embarrassed to chat about that. And one of them is cash flow. So on a more personal level, it's the same thing. People don't like to talk about money stuff, but I bet you, Coke, that anybody listening, I'm sure you and I know I have, have experienced that $36 fee at the bank because you didn't have the money whenever somebody made a demand on your account, right? And sometimes you can get a bunch of those in a row. Well, that's the difference between profit and cash flow. You see, profit and cash flow are very, very different. Businesses go down, they fail for cash flow problems way more often than they do profit problems. And so just remember, cash flow is about one thing. Cash flow is about timing. Okay? It's the timing of the money coming in and going out of your account, of your business. And just remember, the only difference between salad and garbage is timing. So you have to get the timing right. And what I realized whenever I was doing this, this cash flow MRI of my business, was that despite the problem, I had this big chunk of money embezzled from my company. I didn't have the timing very well on some things. I had, big things going out like payroll, but I didn't have that synchronized very well with other things that came in. And so what I ended up doing was I created this week-to-week cash flow management tool, okay? And rather than, look at my accounting and everything on a month-to-month basis every week, and I do this still today for my business and my personal finances, every weekend I log in, I check all the transactions for the week, all the money coming in, all the money going out, and I know exactly what my bank balance, and it reconciles to the bank balance. Because if you think about what's most important, the most important number to you financially is the number you have in the bank. You want that to always be positive, and you want it to always be as big as possible, preferably getting bigger. Well, if that's true, why aren't we paying more attention to it? And why are we always concerned? That you always most people have this sort of fear and this bad feeling in the pit of their stomach because they don't really know what's going to happen. Too many surprises happen in that thing called your bank account. So I decided, I'm going to eliminate all that. I'm not going to have any more surprises. So I know I can forecast out for the whole year. I know until the end of the year, standing right now, a snapshot in time, I can look week by week by week, going out to the last week of the year. And I know from where I stand today, based on the commitments I have, going out and coming in, what my bank balance is going to be every Friday night when the bank closes. I know what it's going to be. Now, it changes a little every week because I make different commitments and I receive different commitments. But when those commitments happen, I enter them into that tool and all the numbers change for me in a click of a mouse, and then the forecast is now updated instantly. So it gives you a tremendous amount of confidence going into the week, knowing for weeks in advance, weeks ahead, how your money is going to go out and going to come in.
And is that one of the strategies you do teach your coaching clients?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because you want, you've only got so many mental cycles to spend. And your cerebral cortex can only handle so much. And you want that focused on the things, frankly, that are closest to profitably serving a client. And what that means is it's also closest to new money coming into your bank account. Okay, I don't mean to make it sound transactional, but that's exactly what it is. So we're focused on all things leading up to that moment, everything upstream from that. And so if if part of your mind is spinning on and grinding on a worry, let's say, about this surprise you had in your bank account last week and you got a string of 3 overdraft charges, but it wasn't because you didn't have the income, it was because your timing was off, but you don't know that. See, that's the thing, is most businesses aren't making the distinction there. And so unless you know how to go in and make it visible, okay, then it's hard to fix it. It's hard to fix something you can't see. And so making it visible and seeing the timing of cash coming in and cash going out and being able to adjust it and what if it, and then make the decision, okay, well, I can make this commitment, but it can't come out the first week of the month. It's got to come out the second week of the month. Then everything's good. It's easy to do that if you know how.
That's brilliant. Well, Dale, I am looking at the time, and we are out of time. This show is so interesting, so fascinating. I knew it would be. Those that are listening in, do you have anything special that you'd like to offer somebody who's listened to this show?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thanks for asking. The new book, which you, none other than Nina Hirschberger, is helping me with, is the 90-minute Profit and Cash Flow Breakthrough. That will provide all of the tools that I just described. I'm including those in there. The 90-minute Profit and Cash Flow Breakthrough, if you would like a copy of that whenever it is ready, should be before February is over, February 2021 for those listening, probably will be ready by that time. Happy to provide a copy. And you can send an email to Dale at your7figurebusinesscoach.com, and that is the number 7, your7figurebusinesscoach.com. And happy to help out and provide some helpful things that will help you with profit and cash flow.
Well, that's a fabulous offer. Thank you. And thank you, Dale, for being on today's show.
Thank you, Nina.
So until next time, this is Nina Hirschberger, and thinking about what is it that you say when somebody says, what is it you do? Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Megabucks Radio with Nina Hirschberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit megabucksradio.com.